There's systemic racism in this country, which we know it is.
No, I don't say there is. You say there is. I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't believe there's
No,
systemic
there
racism?
used to be, obviously. Tell me what you think the number one systemic example of systemic racism is in America.
Oh man, there's so many.
Just give me the most important one you think.
But at the top of mind, I'd probably maybe say mass incarceration.
That's not an example of systemic racism. I mean, I hate when people do this. They look at something that's disproportionately, or like say like the prison population per capita or whatever. Black people are overrepresented in the prison population, but they completely disregard the fact that black people is statistically the most violent demographic of people in this country. So if black people statistically overall commit more violent crime in this country, then they're obviously going to be overrepresented in the prison population. So Larry Elder went on The Breakfast Club the other day, and I saw this on there. So I wanted to do a reaction. I'm gonna probably do a video. I'll probably react to the whole thing and cut it up and put it out in clips. It's an hour-long interview. So if you want to watch the interview without my commentary, it'll be in the description. But I don't want to waste too much time. Let's get into this interview. Like I said, it's an hour long. So I'm very interested to see how bad Larry Elder is going to roast these clowns. The Breakfast Club, for those of y'all that don't know, the Breakfast Club is a far left, radical, victimhood, freaking all they're just they're stupid on the Breakfast Club. That's the simplest way to put it. They're stupid. All they want to do is victimize themselves. But let's see what they how Larry Elder embarrassed them.
Wake that ass up early in the morning. The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Charlamagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We have Tezlyn Figaro with us, and we got a special guest in the building, 2024 Republican presidential candidate Larry Elder. Welcome, brother.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor.
How you feeling?
I feel good.
He does more than that, though. I mean, he was a radio host.
Radio host for 40 years.
Author, TV host.
Author,
New York
host.
Times best-selling list. I've got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Corner of
Yeah, Envy, give him some damn respect. Like, God, this is a legend in the studio right now. I mean, just because he's not talking about killing people, that you can show him a little more respect than that.
Hollywood and Vine, Southeast Corner, just saying.
Okay.
I didn't know you had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, man.
Yeah, about a handful of radio guys do, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, I think it's you, Elvis Duran,
Angie
Howard
Martinez.
Stern,
Yeah.
Big Boy. Oh, Angie
Martinez.
Martinez.
A guy named Arthur Godfrey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into it. Why are you running for president?
Well, I'm running as an America First mega guy, and we have an America First mega guy running, obviously. So the question is, what do you bring to the table?
You said MAGA.
MAGA.
Okay.
And the answer is, I bring a lot of issues to the table that I feel our side is not talking enough about, if at all. For example, the number one social problem in America, by far, is the epidemic not of COVID, but of fatherlessness. 70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. Now 25% of white kids enter the world today without a father in the home, married to the mother. And the stats are clear. Even Barack Obama once cited them. If you're raised without a dad, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. What's happened? In the mid-'60s, with I think the best of intentions, a Democrat named Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. And since then, we have incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. You know, when I say this to people, the pushback I get is, well, there are lots of things that are going on, systemic racism, poverty. Here's the problem. If you look at a young black male aged 10 to 43, that's young to me because I'm 71 years old. A young black man in that demo is 13 times more likely.
He looked good for 71. Jesus. He looked like he's in his 50s. He looked good for 71.
Likely to be murdered than a young white man, same demo. Young black man, real young, 19 and under, the number one cause of preventable death is homicide. almost always at the hands of another young black male.
Facts.
Same demo for whites. The number one cause of preventable death is unintentional deaths. That includes drug overdoses, automobile accidents, drownings. It's not until they get to number 4 that death is the cause. In America, 60% of the shootings, the robberies, and the homicides are committed by black people, often against other black people. Of the homicides in this country, half of them are black victims, almost all killed by other blacks. How do you explain that if it isn't for the absence of fathers? Are you prepared to say black people are just genetically inclined to commit more crime? I doubt it. And the go-to reaction often is poverty and systemic racism. Here's the problem. 1940, when there was blatant racism, this is before Brown versus Board of Education, before the Civil Rights Act of 64, KKK was still alive and well, 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. Now it's about 14%. You can't blame it on poverty. You can't blame it on racism. It is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and neither side is talking about it. The left doesn't talk about it because they caused it with the welfare state, and our side does not talk about it because if you're white, you'll be accused of dissing single moms who are heroically raising these kids, or you'll be accused of being a racist, or if you're black, you'll be accused, as I was by the LA Times, of being the black face of white supremacy. No.
I remember that. I remember that when he was running for, I think he was running for governor of California or something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was governor of California. He was challenging Gavin Newsom, I believe. I think this was maybe a couple years ago. But yeah, they called him the black face of white supremacy because he point out realities of it. Whenever you talk about black issues, and if you're not just licking black people's feet, then you're a white supremacist. I mean, if you tell people how it is and what actually the problems are, like fatherlessness in black homes, and you talk about crime among black people or anything like that, you're a white supremacist. Right? So that's when they called him the black face of white supremacy.
Nobody's talking about that. I am.
What are the reasons, if your statistics are right, what are the reasons that you think fathers aren't in the home?
As I said, it's because in the
All right, so if you notice right now, like I said, the Breakfast Club loved this victim crap, and Charlamagne's first question to him is, "Why do you think?" Now that's a fair question if you just asking it and you really want to know. But Charlamagne is trying to push a narrative that black men ain't in the home because of white people. That's why he said that. It's always white people with these kind of black people.
mid-60s, Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. And Charlamagne, literally, they sent social workers door to door in the inner city. I remember this, advising women of the availability of welfare provided there was no man in the house. It created an economic incentive for women to marry the government. Same thing with whites. In 1965, 8% of whites entered the world without a father in the home married to the mother. Now it's about 25%, also up threefold. Look at census data, 1910, 1920, 1930, in places like Milwaukee, Chicago, Philadelphia, a young black kid was slightly more likely to be brought into a world with a father in the home married to the mother than a young white kid. We have incentivized this kind of bad behavior, and it's had a disproportionately bad effect on the black community.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong?
Here we
Larry Elder.
What? 4 minutes into the interview. What did I say? We're 4 minutes into this hour-long interview. Charlamagne is already saying, what do white people do wrong? These clowns, literally, you cannot. Larry Elder just got done talking. He was not even talking about only black people. He was talking about white families. He was just breaking down statistics. And Charlamagne's first response, he let all that just fly right out of his freaking bald head. And his first response is, "What do white people do wrong?" You cannot make this shit up.
It was slightly more likely to be brought into a world with a father in the home married to the mother than a young white kid. We have incentivized this kind of bad behavior, and it's had a disproportionately bad effect on the black community.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong, Larry Elder?
What do you mean, what do white people do? I'm not worried about white people. I'm worried about what's going on with us.
But if there's systemic racism in this country, which we know it is.
No, I don't say there is. You say there is. I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't believe there's
No,
systemic
there used
racism?
to be, obviously. Tell me what you think the number one example of systemic racism is in America.
Oh man, there's so
Just
many.
give me the most important one you think.
But at the top of mind, I probably maybe say maybe mass incarceration.
That's not an example of systemic racism. I mean, I hate when people do this. They look at something that's disproportionately, or like say like the prison population per capita or whatever. Black people are overrepresented in the prison population, but they completely disregard the fact that black people is statistically the most violent demographic of people in this country. So if black people statistically overall commit more violent crime in this country, then they're obviously going to be overrepresented in the prison population. That does not mean systemic racism. Now, I'm not saying that black people never could be, they can't, like it was never a racist judge or a racist something that black people was put in prison or given heavier sentences because they were black and found the freaking a racist judge or whatever. No, I'm not saying that. I'm sure that happened before and throughout history. But whenever they bring up this prison population thing, they never seem to want to bring up that black people are overwhelmingly more violent than other groups of people in this country. So it makes sense why they would be overrepresented in prison population.
Really? During the Great Depression.
Why the hell is Envy looking like that?
Maybe.
Really? During the Great Depression, when 50% of black adults were unemployed, you didn't have this kind of mass incarceration. It's the breakdown of the family. There's a direct.
I'm not going to. I agree with the family part. I'm a black man who is a father to his children, and I'm a happily married black man to a black woman. So I'm never going to argue with that part, you know. But I just feel like everything is black with you. Black is wrong. Black people do this and black people do that. And when I ask you what white people do wrong, you said you're not worried about white people at all.
I'm talking about.
That is so funny that Charlamagne said that. Charlamagne is an overtly racist black person towards white people on his show. He call them jars of mayonnaise and honkies and white devils and all this stuff. And everything is black with Charlamagne, and the Breakfast Club is just black in the other direction. Black people are saints to Charlamagne and them. So it's funny that he say that.
About the disproportionate damage going on in the black community. For example, look at these smash and grabs that are taking place in Los Angeles, where I live. There's a suburb called Glendale, where at a mall recently, a mob of 30 to 40 people, they had masks on, but one guy got popped. He was a black, and I think most of those who were doing this were black. And in recent years and times, there have been a number of these in places like Chicago, places like New York. If I were involved in something like that, Charlamagne, I grew up with a dad, just as you're raising your own children. I would have been more afraid of my father than I would about the cops catching me. These kids are afraid of neither. They don't have a father in the home. Cops are demoralized. They're pulling back. Their manpower is short. And as a result, you tell a bad guy you're less likely to be caught, convicted, incarcerated, crime goes up. They may be criminals, but they're not stupid. Mm-hmm. When you say, what do white people do? I mean, this is a country that has struggled mightily to get over its historic racism. There was a civil war. There was a big civil rights movement. This is the only majority white country that's ever elected a black president, let alone
break it down to him. Break it down. Larry Elder is very good at statistics and numbers and shit like that. So break down all these numbers for these clowns.
To get over its historic racism. There was a civil war. There was a big civil rights movement. This is the only majority white country that's ever elected a black president, let alone reelected a black president. The three biggest cities in America are New York, Chicago, LA. They all have black mayors, even though no city has a majority of black population. The president of Harvard is a black female. Martin Luther King in 1966, Charlamagne, gave an interview to the BBC. This is 2 years after the Civil Rights Act of 64 got passed. And he said, I'm amazed at how many positive changes there have been in America in the last 2 years. Why, if things keep going like this, we could have a black president in about 40 years' time. Mm-hmm. Do the math. Right on cue, Barack Obama, elected 2008. He didn't say there'll be a black female president of Harvard, and there has been. He didn't say there are going to be black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and there have been several. He didn't say the percentage of the House would equal the percentage of black people in the population, and it does. He didn't say the three largest cities would have black mayors, and they do. He didn't say the largest and most prestigious organization of doctors, the American Medical Association, would have two black presidents, and there have been. He didn't say the most prestigious organization of lawyers, the American Bar Association would have 2 black presidents, and they have. He said president, meaning at that point, I can feel that I've reached the mountaintop, which is the speech he gave right before he got assassinated the day before. And now we act as if Barack Obama never even got elected. And we're still talking about systemic racism. It's not fair. It's wrong. And you're discouraging black people from working hard.
Yep. This is what I say all the time. For these race baiting victim freaking people that always want to be victims, all they're doing is discouraging black people from wanting to work. Because if you're black in this country and all you hear from these goddamn race baiting clowns is always a white man holding you back. Mind you, a white man you can't point to. Is always the system is always against you based off the color of your skin. Cops are always out to kill you because of the color of your skin. Then what is the point of trying to make it in a country like that? Right? I mean, or trying to interact with cops if they're just out to kill you. Like, and then this is what I always say. These people, especially with the cop issue, these people are literally getting black people killed and discouraging black people at the same time. But they're, with cops in particular, they're getting black people killed because black people that listen to the Breakfast Club, listen to these kind of people, they think cops are just out hunting black people down, which is nothing to show that that's true. So when they get pulled over by the cops, they thinking cops are just out to kill them, so they act like animals and then try to attack the cop or run, and then they end up getting themselves killed. Right? So these people, these kind of race baiting, victimhood, freaking system is against us all that because of the color of our skin. People is making it a lot worse for black people in this country.
And now we act as if Barack Obama never even got elected. And we're still talking about systemic racism. It's not fair. It's wrong. And you're discouraging black people from working hard. 1990s.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Mr. Elder, quick question. Let's just remove the word racism, since that seems to be a word that triggers.
Now, I saw clips of this woman. I didn't ever actually see clips, but I saw posts about, because Vivek Ramaswamy went on a Breakfast Club, which I didn't even watch the video because I was trying to wait until I could do a reaction to it, so I didn't watch it. So I want to probably do that next. But from the clips that I've seen of this woman and the stuff I've seen about her, she seemed like a nasty, just ignorant, despicable person. Right. So let's see what she got to say to Larry.
Let's just remove the word racism, since that seems to be a word that triggers, a conversation down the water hole. Let's just focus on the word system. Okay. You mentioned that the system was the one that discouraged. And again, we have no problem with agreeing that the family, the black family, should certainly has some room for some improvement. But let's just focus on system.
Room for improvement?
System. Well, we're not going to go down that water. We're not going to go down that water hole. Let's get to the question. So the question is, you said that the system encouraged black women to be single mothers, correct?
I said the welfare state, yes.
The welfare, the system. So who's in charge of the system? Who was in charge of the system?
Well, it was Democrats that passed it.
And who were Democrats? Were they black or white at that time?
Well, at the time, majority of black people were Democrats, as the majority of black people are Democrats now.
Not the voters. I'm talking about the system. Remember, the main idea is the word system. Who was in charge of the system?
What do you mean, not the voters? See, these people never want to take responsibility. If your argument is the voters, or if your argument is the system was responsible for implementing welfare, the politicians was responsible for it. Shouldn't the voters take some responsibility for electing Democrats that are going to push these policies that doesn't benefit the black family? Like, take some damn responsibility. Is the vote, if people vote, this is my problem with black people. Black people more than any other demographic in this country vote for Democrats. Democrats pass laws and have policies that disproportionately affect black people. And black people keep voting for them because they think the other side is racist. So these people they really get on my nerves.
I'm talking about the system. Remember, the main idea is the word system. Who was in charge of the system at the time? The Democrats at the time, the system. I'm just going to Charlamagne's point about white or black. Was it white Democrats in charge of the system or black Democrats in charge of the system?
Well, if you're prepared to say that Lyndon Johnson did this viciously with an intent to destroy the black family, I disagree. He did it with the best of intentions. And if you look at the New York Times, which is left wing, the Washington Post, which is left wing, they cheered all of this.
Right. And what I'm asking, was it white people? So I'm going to ask again in case my mic's not coming through clearly. Was it white people in charge of
this? This is a nasty woman. She is so goddamn confrontational and she's just nasty.
I'm going to ask again in case my mic's not coming through clearly. Was it white people in charge of the system or black people in charge of that system that helped break down the black family? It's a simple yes, just a simple question, white or black?
Well, you didn't have to go on welfare unless you voluntarily chose to go on welfare.
Exactly.
The inducement was put there by Democrats, by the left.
Correct. Okay. Democrats,
well, most black people were Democrats, and they voted for these white people.
Not voters. I said who's in charge of the system.
Well, who puts them in charge?
Was Lyndon Johnson white or black?
Who put them in charge?
Maybe that'll help you.
Fine. Lyndon Johnson was white.
Thank you.
Okay. But if your argument is that the reason he did it is because of racism, then I disagree. He did it because of
That's not my argument. I just asked you a simple question. Was he white or black? Charlamagne?
And
so who are the people that's voting for these people and these policies? Black people vote for this shit 90% at a 90% clip as a voter block. But yet they want to yeah. Okay.